This is a short vidcast about Beyond the Book, The Meanings of Reading in the 21st Century, a book co-authored by myself, Danielle Fuller from the University of Birmingham, and
DeNal Rehberg Sedo from Mount St. Vincent University in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada.
This is a book that comes from a very large interdisciplinary international research project that the two of us conducted with a team of people over a number of years. DeNal, why don't you say something about the subject of our book?
Our book is about mass reading events. Mass reading events are defined as events that bring together readers who collectively share their reading interpretations. It might be on a large scale, such as a mediated reading event, such as Richard and Judy in the United Kingdom, or Oprah's Book Club in the United States, or Canada Reads in my home country of Canada. It might also be on a community-wide level where we have one book, one community, such as One Book, One Chicago, or Liverpool Reads. In Canada, we have One Book, One Vancouver.
So these kinds of events were really the way that we chose to investigate the meanings of reading in the 21st century, the kinds of ideological reasons why agencies should get into promoting and constructing these events, organizing them, and also the sorts of social meanings that were circulating through these events, not to mention the ways that readers themselves were actually taking up, understanding and engaging with books, reading, and with each other.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think that, really when you talk to people and you think, they ask you about the book, why do you think that it's so important right now? Why is it a timely book?
One of the reasons it's a timely book is because the phenomenon of these citywide or nationwide events is very much a product of the 21st century, both because of the different kind of media that are available and the convergence of digital media with the printed book and people's everyday facility with the internet, but also that kind of inverse craving that seems to have created among many people, especially those who enjoy reading, to come together in public and semi-public spaces, and not only to learn more about a particular book that they have in common, but to share their literary experiences with each other. So that formation, that cultural formation itself has proliferated, but over and above that, there is a kind of sense that within the three countries of our study, the US, Canada and the UK, that books have become, or reading has become, part of popular culture.
Yes, people make the assumption that books are available. They're everywhere, right? So are books available to everyone? We think that they're not.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the key things that we found out and that we investigate and analyze in this book. Another really important thing that we found out and that we look into in the book is that readers themselves, people, especially people who are keen readers, committed readers, are actually quite resistant to the idea that books are everywhere and that reading has become part of popular culture. They're not necessarily that excited about the fact that you can have a literary experience through a literary adaptation, through an event at your local library, through your television screen in the middle of an afternoon daytime program like Richard and Judy. So we were also interested in talking to real readers about how and why they come together to share reading and about their attitudes and perceptions about the meanings of reading in the contemporary moment.
Right. It is important for us to differentiate between real readers and those readers that those of us in the Academy think are reading books. I think that really actually speaks a lot to the different chapters in our books. And we talk about, we have different chapters that talk about the financing that's involved, the community that is created. We have a chapter on the book itself and what it means as a material object. We also have a chapter on Richard and Judy. And I think that those are the kinds of chapters, the different parts of the book that are going to be accessible and useful to those of us who teach in this area. I know that I'm going to use the Richard and Judy chapter and the Canada Reads chapter in my classes of mass communication, because we talk a lot about the different kinds of, the different levels of cultural hierarchy that readers articulate when they talk about books being adapted in or being talked about in different forms of media, different radio channels, different radio networks, different TV networks, online, and how the different iterations of a book or the different interpretations of a book are taken up by the audiences themselves.
Yeah, and I think some of the other aspects of our book will appeal strongly to people in library science programs, literary studies, and cultural studies. An example of that might be our chapter on workers, where we really investigate and examine the labor, the cultural work that event organizers who organize mass reading events get involved in, and the meanings that they themselves give to their own labor. And so this is an area in cultural and creative industries work that has been taken up in relation to television studies, for example, but no one to our knowledge has looked at it in terms of reading and reading events and the kinds of those sorts of aspects of print culture as opposed to TV or radio workers. Another area I think that's of interest to people perhaps in literary studies, but also again to people in library science and reception studies, would be the chapter on readers themselves, where we really try and investigate the kind of identity work that readers do when they come together through these kinds of events and explore different aspects of place-based identity and even notions of citizenship, which can be articulated alongside kind of official, legal and governmental notions of citizenship. So we see these kinds of events as offering opportunities that kind of work outside of, although at the same time alongside, dominant culture.
I think another area that we haven't really talked about, you and I, but we should be very proud of the fact that we investigated 9 different sites using mixed methodology that will be useful to people who want to use quantitative or show how quantitative and qualitative research methods can be applied to different sites or different case studies or implemented in different case studies. We interviewed more than 70 people on the production side or as supporters. We interviewed more than 500 people in a focus group setting, and we have more than 3,500 survey respondents who participated across the 3 different countries in an online survey. And in addition to that, we participated ourselves as participant observers in more than 70 different events.
So this, in other words, is a book that draws on a vast quantity of original data which we generated with our research team members. And it's also a book that tries to take a 360-degree approach to contemporary cultures of reading by thinking about why these things are constructed in the first place, who they're meant to be for, the kinds of funding that's required to go into them, the types of cultural policy that influence organizers to do them in the first place. So our book really explores some of the ways that readers and indeed event organizers use One Book, One Community events and other kinds of mass reading events, such as the ones mediated through television and radio, to explore ideas about what it means to be a reader in the 21st century, also to articulate and to re-examine notions of what it means to be a citizen, and even to reimagine their own ideas about what constitutes community and notions of belonging. So in a sense, Beyond the Book is exactly what it says. It's not just about the meanings that books and the sharing of reading might have in a digital era, but it's also more than that. It's about reading as a social practice and our attempt to reconceptualize notions of the reader, the book, and community for the contemporary period.